So, I want to talk about the online response I've been seeing about the current election results. And just an FYI, I am an independent voter. I'm not in alignment with either political party. And this video will not be about policy or who's the better choice. So, if you're here for that, feel free to exit now. I am here to discuss the online reaction about how various demographics voted in the election. So let's start with the conversation about white women voting for Trump. The vast majority of white women who voted for Trump, and also the majority of suburban white women who voted for Trump. Most single educated white women, on the other hand, voted for Kamala. And I see some of the black women in a tizzy about the white women who voted for Trump. But like I stated in my live stream about the election a few months ago, people are individualists and they're going to vote for whoever they feel will benefit them and their interests. The primary concern for most of the white women who voted for Kamala is reproductive rights and bodily autonomy. And the white women who voted for Trump want to keep their position on the social and financial hierarchy next to white men. Also, based on the exit polls, the concerns about the economy greatly impacted the outcome of the election as well. And a lot of poor and working class people, especially, believe that Trump is going to improve the economy and give them access to better jobs and more income. Now, we'll see if that actually happens for them, but that is what they think. But the poor, uneducated white people, including poor, uneducated white women, they don't have financial privilege. So they are desperately trying to hold on to the privilege they still have, and that is white privilege. Now, the more educated whites who have a little bit of coin and benefit more from capitalism, many of them aren't as concerned about that because they've already made it, so to speak. Now, the wealthy whites who want to keep benefiting from both capitalism and white supremacy and white privilege, they voted for Trump, especially the men. And of course, most white men are going to vote for a white man. And a lot of those suburban white women who voted for Trump are the wives of these men, and they are benefiting from the system via their white patriarchal husbands. And Trump is who their husbands voted for, so they did too. They're not going to let go of those benefits. I don't care how many commercials they do telling white women to cancel out their husband's vote. I don't care how many blue bracelets some of them wear. For them, the pros outweigh the cons, and they are going to vote in what they feel is their best interest. And I keep seeing black women in particular trying to make most white women more downtrodden and upset than they are about white male patriarchy. But clearly they are not as upset as y'all think they are or should be. They may not like the reversal of Roe versus Wade. They may not like their bodily autonomy being taken away. But for many of them, their desire for overall white privilege outweighs their outrage about that. That is why I told y'all a long time ago to stop falling for all of these TikTok videos from these white women complaining about their husbands, especially if they are hypergamous and being taken care of. They ain't going nowhere. I don't know when black women are going to learn that most white women are never going to give up their proximity to power. They're never going to give up their place in the hierarchy next to white men. They're not going to give that up for black women and other women of color in the name of sisterhood. And this is the same thing I've been telling y'all about mixed women, light-skinned women, yet y'all continue to over-identify with them, just like you did with Kamala, when she also has othered herself from blackness several times. And now most of y'all are shocked because you didn't have as many white female allies as you thought you did. And the delusion black women have about non-black women and how they operate is embarrassing. And it's wild to see y'all crying about the white women who voted for Trump. Now, of course, there are white women who stand in solidarity with all women, but most of them are selfish. Most of them are hierarchical. Most of them are competitive, which is why I keep telling black women to jump in the game and compete like other races of women are competing with you. And yes, you can still have white friends. You can still have white allies. You can even date white men and still look out for you first because they do it all the time. And if you're a high earning black woman who has a decent amount of high earning non-black friends and acquaintances, I guarantee you that you already have friends or people in your community who voted for Trump. There's no getting around it, especially if you're a black woman that has leveled up and has a diverse network. I'm sorry to break it to you ladies, but I'm sure you know somebody who has voted for Trump. You might know some black people who voted for him too. And most of us who specifically deal with white men romantically, I'm sure you know at least one white person who voted for Trump. And some of those white people are super cool. They are not anything like these unhinged, ghetto, extreme Trump supporters. Some of them will even help you level up. I've been in situations where I've benefited by proxy from being in community with a white person or with white people. But I'm under no illusions that some of them probably voted for Trump. Most of them are white first at their core. And to be honest with you, I don't expect them to be any other way. And I'm going to just keep it a buck right now. Black women are mad at white women and white men when they should be mad at black men for not building a system to benefit their women like white men did. Your problem is not with white women and white men, ladies. And I'm not condoning racism and white people upholding the system of white supremacy, but that's what they're going to do because they're white. If y'all truly expect most of them to choose you over themselves, you are delusional. No amount of TikTok videos or black women like Joy Reid shaming suburban white women into voting Democrat is going to make them do it. Not as long as they are reaping the benefits from their Republican white husbands and reaping the benefits of white privilege and white male patriarchy in general. And black women's real problem is that you don't have a system to benefit from because black men didn't create one. And they didn't create one primarily because they don't want one. That is the truth. And I know that to y'all, Trump taking away women's rights should be enough for all white women to turn on their men. But that is never going to happen because their men, by and large, are better providers. A biracial woman like Kamala can't give them the privileges that white men can. And neither can being allies with the collective of black women. So no, most of them are not going to vote like black women. Nobody is going to give up their privilege for you black women. And it's time to accept that and move accordingly. And it's so interesting to me because I thought that the black female swirlers and the quote unquote black misandrists and all the black women who date out, I thought that we were supposed to be the delusional ones when it comes to this, because it's usually the pro-black women telling other black women who date interracially that will never be white women. The collective of white men will never protect black women. Black women will never benefit from white privilege. The system wasn't made for us. But many of these same hotep black women somehow expected the white women who benefit from white privilege and the system of white supremacy not to vote for their own interests as white women. Not their interests as women, but white women. Keyword white. Ladies, the delusion has to stop. Even if white women aren't necessarily Republican or pro-Trump, they're still going to be pro-white supremacy in some way because that system and the networks within that system is how they got access to their opportunities. It's how they fund their lifestyle. It's how they live comfortably. Who would want to get rid of that? Hell, we don't even want to get rid of the parts of the system that we benefit from as black people. So what makes you think that white women collectively are going to take food off their plate and the plates of their children to give it to you? They never will. And I don't care how much they empathize with your plight, black women. And I just think that more discussions on how women compete and stay ahead of other women is necessary because there are too many black women in denial about this. And y'all actually believe other women are going to look out for you before they look out for them in their group. And it'll probably never happen, not in the way that black women would need it to. And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that black women shouldn't form alliances with other communities at all, especially on an individual level. Y'all know I encourage black women to do that. But the point here is that the collective solidarity that you think you have with other women and other people of color does not exist like that. And I think that black women need to get better about separating your personal allies and friendships from your collective allies. We might collectively stand in solidarity with non-black women and other people of color on certain issues and make a little bit of progress, but black women are never going to get ahead in the way that we want to get ahead without prioritizing ourselves and our own specific needs and being selfish. Black women need to be primarily focused on black women. Not all races of women, not all people of color, not black men, not trans women, not trans men, but black women. And listen, I don't care who gets mad about that. Black women need to be selfish like everyone else. And there were a few black women who reached out asking me what I think black women should do now that Trump is back in office. And my answer to that is to be more self-serving. How well black women and most people in general will hold up during Trump's second term ultimately boils down to class and the have and have nots. If you're already leveled up as a black woman or you're on your level up journey, you'll most likely be fine during Trump's second term. And if you're still on your level up journey, understand that you can't save everybody. You can't save the world. You can't save your whole family. You can't save all of your broke ass friends. You have to save yourself before you can help anyone else. And you can only help someone else that deserves your help. Black women need to prioritize reciprocal relationships where they are helping people who are actually helping them back. And also do whatever it is you need to do to keep leveling up financially, whether that be going to school, learning a new skill or a trade in a lucrative field, starting a business. Figure out how to make some extra money. You can start an online business. You can start a YouTube channel. Just focus on you and being self-sufficient. Also, you want to make sure you arm yourselves and practice your Second Amendment right. And if you don't own a firearm, carry a self-defense item of some sort at all times. Educate yourself on the firearm and self-defense laws in your state. Also, if you're still dating men, only entertain a man if he's adding significantly to your life financially. Vet men thoroughly. Don't fuck with or allow yourself to get pregnant by poor men, or get pregnant at all if you can't afford children. You can't afford to be sexually irresponsible right now, ladies. And since men are taking away our rights, take away your body. That's my advice. And speaking of men, I also want to discuss the narrative that the Manosphere online is trying to push about Black women somehow voting against Black men, and specifically the Black men that either voted for Trump or were heavily against Kamala. And I see them trying to compare the way Black women voted to the way white women voted for Trump, trying to make it seem like white women are so loyal compared to Black women. But that doesn't make sense at all, because most of the Black men who voted Democrat. So if what they're saying is true, and the collective of Black women voted against Black men's best interests, so did Black men. You can't make the argument that most Black women weren't on code with Black men when only 20% of Black men who voted for Trump, and most of them voted for Kamala. Black women voted the same as most of their men, the same way white women did. So there's no quote unquote disloyalty here. There's actually a larger voting difference between Latino men and Latina women. So technically, they're the most quote unquote disloyal, which I really don't give a fuck about that. But I'm just saying, like, if you want to be technical about it. And when it comes to how Latino women and Latino men voted, it's probably because a lot of broke Latino men ain't pulling their weight like they should. If y'all didn't know, Latino women are right behind Black women in the single mother category. And let's not act like none of us haven't seen these broke-ass Hispanic women in the grocery store with all them damn kids. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm just speculating. I could be totally wrong. Y'all let me know in the comment section. But yeah, if you're a Black man who was mad that more Black women didn't vote for Trump, you need to be mad at other Black men too, because most of them didn't vote for Trump either. I don't like the narrative being pushed that, most Black men are all on the same page and they're trying to move forward and, create this thriving Black community, but Black women are not. Like, that's not true. That's not happening. And if their argument is that white women voted for patriarchy and Black women didn't, like I said earlier, it's because white women have patriarchal men and they benefit way more from white patriarchy than the collective of Black women do, at least on an individual level. I mean, we do get our jobs from white men and most of our resources from white men as well. But my point is, we don't benefit from the system quite as much as white women do. And of course we won't, because again, we're not white. And I'm willing to bet that many of the 7% of Black women who did vote for Trump have patriarchal, traditionally oriented husbands who are the breadwinners of their homes. And I wouldn't be surprised that a good chunk of those women who voted red, the Black women who did, are probably with white men. And when it comes to the unmarried, uneducated white women who voted Trump, despite many of them suffering under the current system, the collective of white men, regardless of their socioeconomic status, are actually pro-white. And they're helping to keep white women who look like them at the top of the hierarchy. The ones at the bottom are helping the ones at the top keep the system in place. And they're helping to keep white women at the top of the hierarchy in terms of position, beauty, etc. They all work together to do that as white men, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Black men do not. So that's another difference. If there was a benevolent Black male patriarchy that Black women actually benefited from, where we were on the top of the hierarchy, you would see a critical mass of Black women following that. But because that doesn't exist, you don't see that. And keep in mind, I'm talking about collectively. I do know that there are some individual Black women with traditional Black men who are also traditionally oriented and quote unquote following their husband's lead because their husband is the breadwinner. And I'm talking about the couples where the Black men make significantly more than the woman. So I'm not talking about individual cases. I'm not talking about the exceptions. I'm talking about why the collective of Black women are quote unquote following Black men. And I know the argument is going to be, oh, well, if Black men had a system, Black women still wouldn't fall in line. How do you know that? Build a system that Black women benefit from and need for their survival. And when Black women don't support that system, then come back to me and tell me that Black women are uncooperative. I'm just trying to figure out who all of these non-existent patriarchal Black male leaders and presidential candidates in the Black community are that Black women refuse to vote for and refuse to follow. Because I keep seeing this narrative coming from the Black Manosphere about Black women not being on code with Black men. But there's no system or program to be on code with. Where is it? And also, the same Black men online who are pro-Trump and talking about Black male patriarchy are also pro-passport bros. They're also pro-Black men dating out and marrying out. They're also colorists, featurists, and texturists. And absolutely none of them have devised a plan for Black people where Black women would actually benefit. But they want Black women to, quote unquote, stay on code. How? How when y'all are not and never been on code with Black women? How when there have been so many Black male civil rights leaders partnered with non-Black women? The only time y'all were on code is during segregation when y'all had to be. And see, what Black men really mean when they say Black women need to stay on code, that means they want Black women to be mammies. That means they want us to blindly follow the worst of Black men who are not loyal, they're not offering anything or benefiting Black women. They want us to follow them blindly. That is code to Black men. They want us to be on code with them when they're not on code with us. And I'm sorry, but throw white women or any other race of women in that situation, them bitches will be gone. And actually, we're starting to see that now with white women. Now that the everyday average white man is suffering more economically. More white women are dating and marrying down. More white women are completely opting out and choosing to stay single if they can't marry up. More of them are choosing not to have children and focus on their education. And many of those white women are feminists who voted for Kamala. And women who don't have men to depend on and they have to primarily depend on themselves are going to be more feminist minded regardless of race. And the women who do have men to depend on, and specifically women who are hypergamous with men who are gainfully employed, those women are going to follow their men. But fellas, you don't get that privilege if you don't have any money and no plan. Sorry, not sorry. You don't get the benefits of patriarchy and traditionalism without being traditional patriarchs. You just don't get that. Again, I'm not talking about individual cases. I'm talking about the collective of you. And again, the outcome of this election is mostly about how people feel they're going to benefit individually from whoever is in office. Most Black women have to depend on themselves. We don't have a system or a collective of men to depend on. And honestly, Black men don't either, which is why they voted for Kamala too. I've said before that Black men want the benefits of patriarchy, but they don't want the responsibility. I don't think most men, including Black men, necessarily want a woman to be president, but Black men are still 100% okay with women being breadwinners. Make no mistake about that. They're still perfectly fine with Black men living off of women. They prefer to go 50-50. Most of them don't want to build infrastructure for the Black community. They don't want to put in the work. They're 100% okay with eating the crumbs from white male patriarchy and relying on their government for assistance, which is another reason they overwhelmingly voted for Kamala. And another reason they voted for Kamala is because Trump promised to grant immunity to the cops who unalive Black men. So we're also not going to sit here and act like Black women just forced Black men to vote for Kamala. No, they wanted to vote for her. But overall, the fact that most of them did vote for her, it speaks to their non-traditional, non-patriarchal orientation. And Black women need to understand that their decision to vote for Kamala had very little to do with them protecting the rights of Black women and women in general. Because I saw a couple of Black women on TikTok saying, oh, well, we owe Black women an apology because they voted for our rights. No, they voted for themselves. For the most part, they did. And there is no critical mass of patriarchal Black men that refuse to vote for Kamala because they want the responsibilities of patriarchy and leadership. Now, the Black men that refuse to vote for her, one reason they didn't vote for her is because they don't like the symbolism of a woman being in office, especially a biracial woman who's married to a white man. That's another reason they don't like Kamala. That's another reason why they are saying that she's not Black when any other time women who look like Kamala would be Black. If she's partnered with a Black man. So for Black men, it's the symbolism. And for white men and Hispanic men, they also don't like the symbolism of a woman being president and a half Black woman being president. But it's primarily because they actually want to be empowered. They actually want leadership positions, especially white men. So let's not get confused on why different demographics of men didn't vote for Kamala. And I also want to point out that there have actually been a ton of Black women online supporting Black men who did not support Kamala. And before the election, I kept hearing about all these evil Black feminists and Black male misandrists trying to force Black men into voting. But I saw a lot of Black women defending Black men and their right to vote for whoever they want. Nina Turner, the former senator of Ohio, she came out heavy in defense of Black men. Not to mention all these red pill black women online with these huge platforms. Oh, they were going in on Kamala on behalf of black men. So it seems to me that the minority of black men who weren't Kamala supporters got a lot of support from a good amount of black women that would match up with the minority of black men that weren't Kamala supporters. Because again, if a minority of black men voted for Trump, you can't then argue that the majority of black women are going against black men. No, the majority of black people, both genders, voted for Kamala. So all you would need as a minority of black men who voted for Trump is a minority of black women who either also voted for Trump or who supported black men's decision not to vote for Kamala. And that's what you got. You got that minority of black women who were supporting you. And my thing is, if black men are serious about building up the black community and being in charge, why don't they link up with those women? Why don't they link up with the quote unquote cooperative black women who love black men, who don't date nothing but a black man, the black women who are not misandrous, the black women who agree with everything they say? Why don't all the black couples of the black manosphere, because there are men and women in the black manosphere, right? Why don't the couples in that demographic get together and build their own community and black owned infrastructure somewhere, make another Black Wall Street, make a political plan, throw their weight behind a presidential candidate in their community? What is stopping them from doing that? What is stopping them? And I asked this question years ago and I never got an answer. So that tells you that they really don't want to change anything, y'all. They're just doing a bunch of talking online. And this is why the smart black women like myself and the women over here, we burned the cape a long time ago, because we know that the collective of black men, we know y'all not about to do nothing. And we know that y'all don't even appreciate your mammy. It's like, there's no benefit in being a mammy. If you hear these niggas talk online, it's like the mammies caping for them all over the internet don't exist, even though it's thousands of them. But they're not focusing on those women. They're focusing on the black feminists and the black male misandrists. The women who are still caping for black men, y'all should be insulted. But I guess some of them aren't insulted because they're getting paid by black men to criticize the black feminists and misandrists. But most of y'all are not getting nothing for this. You're not getting paid. So the women who defend black men who are not getting paid, you should feel insulted because they don't even acknowledge y'all like that. And instead of putting their money together and actually building something offline for the community and the non-existent black male patriarchy that they're whining about, they're instead paying people to cry about the black women and white men they blame for all of their failures. I swear to God, it's some of the weakest, most bitch-made shit I have ever seen. And I will forever be a black misandrist before I support that bitch-made behavior from black men. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like they have the ability to be better than that. I'm not willing to accept that from them. So the female red pill grifters can have all that shit. I don't want no parts of it. And you shouldn't either, ladies, because most of us, we don't benefit from defending the black men who frequent these spaces. They're not about to do nothing. They have no plan. All they're doing is talking, and talk is cheap. So anyway, ladies, in the comments, I want you to share the ways in which you think we as black women can be more strategic in this political climate and elevate ourselves and center our specific interests moving forward. Let me know how you think we can be more self-centered and self-serving. Also, let me know what you think about the exit polls and what they reveal about those of us who voted. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch up with you in the next video.